Now, just imagine it's 1989 and you've unwrapped your brand new Game Boy. You pop in Tetris, the little theme song kicks in, and suddenly you're lost in a world of falling blocks and endless shapes. But something's missing, and this would be colour.
Shut up and take my money!
Now, imagine if that iconic Game Boy that's in your hands had full colour from the very beginning, right out of the box. How would that have changed not only handheld gaming, but the entire gaming landscape itself? Would the Game Boy have been a much more revolutionary device, or would it have its sole existence put to jeopardy with the higher price demands and the battery consumption? So join me today as I take a look at alternative reality where the Game Boy had colour right from the very start. The original Game Boy games were often praised for the gameplay and creativity, but they had to work within the limitations of the black and white, well, technically greenish, screen. But just imagine what a fully coloured Game Boy would have meant for the games that we know and love. Titles such as Super Mario Land, for example, would have had an entire different aesthetic, with it looking slightly similar to what we saw on the NES. The barren deserts and temple landscapes could have been brought to life, really enhancing the player's experience, all in the palm of their hand. Then there's The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, already one of the greatest handheld games of all time. Link's Awakening on a full colour screen would have felt like a pocket-sized A Link to the Past. The mysterious island, the dungeons and the lush forests, and even Link's enemies could have come alive in a way that would have been absolutely mind-blowing for a handheld device. It could have made the experience of adventuring through this mysterious dreamland even more enchanting. And of course we can't forget Pokemon. Gamers would no longer imagine what each Pokemon would look like based on the pixelated black and white sprites. From your very first battle, you'd be able to see Charizard's iconic orange hue in all its glory. And maybe because of this, the world of gaming might not have had the release of Pokemon Yellow, the game that introduced colour to the original Pokemon games.
Pikachu?
Thanks Pikachu, but anyway, let's get to the heart of what full colour might have meant in the wider gaming world. The competition. In the late 80s and the early 90s, Nintendo wasn't the only player in town. Sega had entered the handheld market with the Game Gear, boasting a full colour screen that was its main selling point. Atari had its Lynx, also in colour, with some slick hardware to boot, but despite these colourful options, the Game Boy blew all of its competition out of the water. Why, I hear you ask? Well, Nintendo made that ultimate decision to prioritise battery life and affordability over colour.
Interesting. Indeed.
The Game Boy, already the handheld king, would have solidified its dominance even further, pushing the likes of Sega and Atari aside with an almighty slap. If full colour had been part of the Game Boy's original DNA, maybe Nintendo would have jumped straight to the Game Boy Advance, bringing those classic 16-bit titles to the hands of gamers.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
But let's not just think about the games. Consider how the Game Boy defined an era of pop culture. But if it had launched in full colour, it might have been even more of a pop culture juggernaut. That said, the limitations of the original Game Boy are part of its charm. The greyish screen, the blocky design, the lo-fi graphics, they were what make it such an iconic piece of gaming history. Anyway, come back next time where Sega fans take it upon themselves to create some amazing Sonic titles. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next game.